Went to school at SIU. He started up brownfield engineering, environmental engineering in 2016, I believe. He has many years experience. I think he has almost as much gray hair as I do. And put together a little information on him, and he's well qualified. He worked in the Rockton fire that they had at the chem tool plant, and he's actually from Rockton, right? Yep, from Rockton. His business is in Beloit. He's did some work for me a couple years ago, and you also worked with LP on asbestos removal, if I remember right. So I'd like to welcome Mr. Brad Brown.
I'll make a motion to have Mr. Brad Brown of Brownfield Environmental Engineering to address the council, please.
Motion by Alderman Hernandez and Alderman Laverty to allow Mr. Brown to address the council. All in favor?
Aye.
Yes. Mr. Brown, we appreciate you taking some time to actually be in our community the last couple of weeks, and obviously he's come tonight to kind of go over some of your findings. We felt as a city it was imperative to get an outside source in here, do some testing, especially some the residents up there in that Porter Street area, Porter Avenue, and so we appreciate that. Kind of gave some of the folks a heads up about the general response of how the results came in. That all of you will get more in depth tonight. Again, my understanding is Rockton and Morris, they didn't have an outside person come in. We just thought it was kind of important to do that. Just to kind of dot all our I's, cross our T's, and make sure we don't leave any stones unturned. So, thank you, sir. We're looking forward to your results.
Excellent. Good evening, everybody, ladies and gentlemen. Brian, thank you for the nice introduction. I'll expand on that just a little bit. We're based in Beloit, Wisconsin. We do a lot of work down in this area. We've got a long-term relationship with LP High School. We have done a lot of environmental work for them with managing all the asbestos and hazardous materials involved with the remediation projects and the renovation work that they've done up there. So we go back probably 10 or 15 years, my relationship with them, and some other clients in the area as well. We've got a small office in Davenport, Iowa, in addition to our main office in Beloit, Wisconsin. Our team of engineers provide environmental consulting services to municipalities, government agencies, and private sector clients in the areas of soil and groundwater contamination and remediation, air quality compliance, mold, exposure assessments, environmental permitting, remediation, asbestos and lead testing, abatement management, and waste management associated with large-scale environmental demolition and remediation projects. So we do have a background in soil and groundwater, especially, and cleanup operations. We talked about the long-term relationship with LP High School. The city of LaSalle has asked us to work with them as an independent consultant to provide an objective opinion and reviewing the effects of the recent Carus fire on local residences and parks near the facility which has been affected by the fire. So, I'll throw out a statement that Brownfield does not have any connection to Carus or the IEPA in regards to the cleanup and the work that they're doing up there. Carus has not been a client of Brownfield in the past, and we have had no business dealings with them directly or indirectly. I'll throw out a footnote. We do have one employee, Paul Scott, who had worked previously for Carus approximately 4 to 5 years ago. And Mr. Scott has no connection with Carus currently and was only involved in the initial soil sampling that we did. He had some local knowledge of things, and so he participated and helped me take some of the samples and do that first part. But he did not have any involvement in the drafting the summary report or its findings. His role with us is he's one of our field technicians and is often out on site doing soil sampling and observation and stuff on some of the DOT projects and that type of work that we do. So throwing that out as a footnote, so we're very clear about that. I'll try not to just read through my stuff because you've got the report that we provided, but I want to make sure that I follow closely with my notes so that we cover everything and you guys have a good understanding of what we did and how we went through it. On January 18th, I think it was, I guess it was Wednesday, we were contacted by the city of LaSalle to engage our services as an independent consultant to evaluate the potential environmental impacts and health risks from the fire, participate in the fallout on nearby homes and parks. Based on the information provided by the IEPA, the fire involved the chemical potassium permanganate, which is an inorganic chemical compound primarily used to treat drinking water and used in industrial processes. Chemicals of concern relating to the fire are potassium and manganese. We reviewed a lot of information that was provided by the city and the IEPA over the next couple of days. And Friday, January 20th, myself and Paul Scott met with the representatives of the city, Brent and Brian, and we reviewed information relating to the fire and the ongoing cleanup efforts and information that was available at that time. And we discussed what our scope of work was going to be to collect some soil and water samples to help assess what affects the precipitate head from the fire. So we established a sampling plan, which included soil and water sampling to be analyzed for potassium and manganese. Samples were to be collected from areas most heavily affected by the plume, where the fire precipitant was the greatest. And Friday, January 20th, we collected 7 topsoil samples. When I say topsoil samples, we collected, the very top level of soil that was present at the locations that I'll kind of read off here, to represent what was in that upper layer. So representative of what we got in our yards and in the grass, and there's grass included with that sample that was analyzed. So we had 2 from Matheson Park, the playground and the ball diamond, and 1 at fire station number 2, which is where the old fire truck is at here. And 6 from into town. 2 at Hegler Park, the playgrounds east and west, and 1 at Rotary Park on the south side of the larger pond, and 1 at 1448 Zinc Street. And then Friday we also collected a sample from the Rotary Park pond. We returned on January 24th. Cole Cameron, one of our engineers on staff, collected additional samples. Initial 9 samples were collected. 1524 Zinc Street, 1446 Porter, 1409 Porter, 1649 Zinc Street, 12266 O'Connor Street. Oh, that's right, that's all I remember. 1618 La Harpe Street, 1214 Porter Street, and the St. Mary's Park, Ball Diamond in the park. We also obtained 1 roof water sample that was provided by the homeowner at 1409 Porter Street, and 1 granular material sample that was provided by the homeowner at 1409 Porter as well. So our analytical results, total of 16 topsoil samples, 2 water samples, and 1 sample of granular material were submitted to First Environmental Laboratories in Naperville to be analyzed for potassium and manganese. Topsoil analytical compared 2 parameters. We have the IEPA, what they call TACA levels, which is tiered approach to correction objectives, and that's our cleanup levels that they've established. So if we had a project where there was cleanup and we were performing that would be the maximum level that they would allow that would be okay for being clean in the residential. There's other levels for industrial and commercial, but the residential are the most restricted, and certainly what's representative of what we're looking at. And the other parameter would be the IEPA statistical background levels. Background levels are kind of the averages of what they have sampled all over the state of Illinois. So there's a range of background levels. And there's 2 components to that. They have a inside in metropolitan statistical areas, and that's areas of about 120,000 people in an area or greater and outside of metropolitan statistical areas. The way it breaks down is typically in the metropolitan statistical areas, you've got more industry, you've got more businesses, more activity, more human impact, and so the background levels are typically a little bit higher in those areas. And there are more rural areas where we could, our background levels are a little bit lower. So we'll take a look at those when we're in the non-metropolitan statistical areas. Top soil analytical, most the most restricted acceptable level of manganese is the residential ingestion level, and that's the cleanup level, and that's 1,600 milligrams per kilogram. And the greatest level of soil we found in all the samples collected was 955. I'll repeat that again, 955 was the milligrams per kilogram was the greatest level that we found, and the cleanup level, the maximum we allowed would be 1,600, so we're well below that. The EPA has not established remediation objectives for potassium, and they note this, I'll quote this right from their chart. It says this chemical is of no concern for soil ingestion and no data are available to assess other routes of exposure. There is no soil concentration limit established for this constituent. Now, don't take that to mean that I'm sitting here saying that any level of potassium is safe. That's just what the IEPA has established in the soil sample in the ground in the residential area. Okay? So that's what that information applies to. It doesn't apply to holding a big pile of it in your hand, eating it directly, anything like that. It applies to just the soil. Clear about that. We talked about the background levels and how they're established. And our soils were well within the ranges of manganese and potassium, but there were a few above the average. If you look at the tables, if you want to get into the weeds on that, the background range is quite a bit from highs to lows. And all of our levels are within the ranges that were found. So the top one there, the range for manganese, I think is the top row, and just like over is averaging. So the range is 61.5 to 2,710. That's the range that the data was established with. And the median, the average, is 784. So we did have some that were a little over the average, but that's still significantly below the cleanup levels that the IEPA has established. And for potassium, the next one down, same deal. The averages ranges from 280 to 5,600, with an average of 12 to 10. In those ranges, and some were a little bit over, but not up towards the upper limits either. So a little bit elevated on the potassium, but not out of the background range. The one sample of roof runoff water that was collected by the resident, 1409, was provided to us for analysis. We put that in our sampling containers, and that was found to be 0.865 milligrams per liter of manganese. And we don't really have something we can directly compare roof runoff to, but just as a reference, we'll compare that to our groundwater cleanup objective. So if we looked at what we would call an acceptable level in the groundwater, it would be 0.15 milligrams per liter. So that's the roof water level is definitely significantly over 0.15. So I'll read those numbers again. 0.865 milligrams per liter is what the roof runoff sample had in it, and the groundwater objective would be 0.15. So that one is definitely higher. Use that as a reference. other water sample was collected and analyzed for manganese and potassium was collected from the pond out of Rotary Park. That was 0.02 milligrams per liter. And if we compare that to the 0.15 groundwater remediation objective, we're much lower. So we did not find an elevated level of manganese in the pond. Sample did contain 6.4 milligrams per liter of potassium, but there is no remediation level established for potassium. So, when we look at our findings and recommendation, what does all that mean? There's a lot of numbers we've kind of thrown out here. So based on the comparison of the topsoil sample analytical to the IEPA residential ingestion and inhalation remediation objectives for manganese, all the topsoil samples collected from the residential areas in the parks were found to be significantly below the site remediation objectives. Okay, so those topsoil samples were all found below for manganese. So we're not even close to the cleanup objectives. That's good news. It's good news from that standpoint. Topsoil analytical results do not show the levels of manganese. Therefore, we would not recommend additional topsoil testing unless there was something else that said, hey, we should look at something different if the circumstances change. So, the water sampling, the earth water sample collected, we had talked about it being 0.85 milligrams per liter. We don't have a real comparison to what that should be compared to. It's a unique sample collected. The Illinois Department of Public Health recently set a drinking water action level for manganese. There's a kind of a reference of 0.5 milligrams per liter. So what we collected off the roof drain was 0.865, and what the IEPA just published earlier, the Illinois Department of Public Health, IEPA, they just published a level of 0.5. So there's a reference point for us. Certainly above what you would want to drink. So you should not be drinking any of the collected water, and I probably wouldn't let our pets drink any of the collected water in this area.
What about the wildlife?
Rotary Park Pond, the water sampled there,
in like 2 weeks.
0.02
Squirrels all over
milligrams
my house.
per liter.
I haven't seen one.
About that being below the Class 1, Class 2 groundwater cleanup objectives. So the pond does not appear to be impacted from that based on that sample. So I don't know that we would recommend additional water sampling, but we may want to consider testing the pond for phytoplankton and zooplankton, which make an excellent indicators of environmental conditions and aquatic health within the ponds. Sensitive to changes in water quality, respond to low dissolved oxygen levels, high nutrient levels, toxic contaminants, or food quality and abundance. So that's something we can look at to address further concerns of the pond. Yes. And the other part that I'll add here in conclusion, you're here on site on February 20th. We did meet with the IEPA and folks up at Carus, and they took us through and gave us a little bit of a site tour and showed us what they were doing as far as cleanup. They explained how they captured the water runoff from firefighting efforts and how their system diverts water into their emergency pond. And that was all being collected on site. And they had 23 board. There was no discharge from their other pond. They were testing the water in the ponds, and they were going to be managing that accordingly. Likely hauling some stuff off site, but I don't speculate on where they're at with that. It wasn't something we get into hugely. We're not supposed to that, but they were containing everything, and they had people working on their cleanup and hauling a lot of stuff off to the landfill. So it appears that their cleanup efforts are being completed.
What about the granular substance?
Did you skip over that part of it?
Yeah, I was wondering.
That you collected from 1409 forward?
Yeah,
You mentioned it.
I'm sorry, there is I didn't put that in my notes, I did skip that over. You have that.
This guy's
our report. I apologize if I did that.
It wasn't the rough draft that you sent that
Was that the
was significant, but it was granular.
Yes.
It's what fell on us.
Yeah.
Yep.
It's what's in our filters.
That this fire chief said was safe. I don't mean to interrupt, but
It's crazy that this is the one thing we
that
forgot.
purple green stuff.
It's kind of suspicious, actually.
Very. No finger. Don't point your finger.
It just makes it all that much worse. Find out the truth.
Come on.
I apologize, we did leave that out, not intentionally, because we didn't want it on the soil table, and we didn't want it on the water table. And that would be my error for not getting it in the report, so we can certainly address it. But it's in the lab part of the report here.
I can't believe he was trying to skip over.
Do you have that?
Yeah, that's one.
That would be 1409 and granular.
And we will make this available on our website as well.
But why were these partnership tested? They don't have
I'll have the levels.
It was significant. It was like 100,000.
Which is why it's not.
Yeah, so we didn't have it out there trying to cover it. It was definitely had a lot of potential.
pictures of my house. There it is.
Right, you say it wasn't a photo,
No, I just thought you went by it. It was in
here
the,
it is.
it's in the lab results.
It's in the lab results, and it's 1409 quarter-1. Yes, and the manganese was 276,000 milligrams per kilogram, and potassium was 133,000 milligrams per kilogram. So that's what was.
So that was
In our
what fell
filters.
on us.
Yeah.
City. You guys weren't worried about that purple stuff. This is sad. I'm sorry, but
it is dangerous to pass.
I have a question.
this whole time,
I'm gonna throw it. Yeah.
I'm fucking sick. I'm sorry.
Alright, thanks a lot for your presentation. So we're gonna go ahead and ask questions.
Yeah.
Before we get to this, too, I want to update from our past conversation about communication, specifically related to the red alert system. We have been in communications with management red alert. We've discussed with them why people did not receive those messages when they sent out. They did discuss with us that we have currently, or this was designed to do, is to put out as many messages as possible in a short amount of time to get the information. They had expressed to us that there could be, those calls could be getting
Exactly.
bunched up and not making their way through to every call. They've recommended that we then elongate the length of time the responses are going out to get more of the calls through. Which doesn't, it's hard for me to kind of describe to understand, but it's sort of like if you put too much paper in a paper shredder, how sometimes it dumps up the machine.
You need to reach out to the ASPCA.
Now extending that period of time by which the message goes, fewer of them going out at once. But the idea is that they will all make their way to the destination. My thought process is, and I recommend the next time you do an all-call, they put something on Facebook and our website saying that we put the all-call out there, and if no one else, and if you haven't received that, you can reach out to us and we can look at it further. Because we we don't have a firm, we're not certain that this is gonna fix the issue, this is what they told us.
Why can't you use the emergency alert system put in place to go to every cell phone and to anybody in the area in case there's a disaster? We need to think of this.
That's what I was gonna get to next, is that we.
You wanna use the red code for Christmas tree lights and garbage cans, that's fine.
Right.
But we need something different for something like this.
We don't,
Because my loved ones and everybody else's loved ones didn't know what the hell was going
We
on.
are currently looking at another process that does exactly that.
LaSalle County.
The thing, the cell tower, and everybody in that area with their cell phone get it.
LaSalle County has reached out to us offering that platform in the future, so we have that as an option now where we can do that location and everything inside that. So that'll be added to our plan.
It's a great point, a lot of people went out for business.
I'm just wondering.
I remember that morning my cell phone rang, it said full red, but there's no message coming through.
Right.
And then the landline rang and gave the message.
Yeah, but if you this is what they've advised us is now if we, like I said, if we put out more red alerts out there and we find out people are getting them and it's still being problematic for us, we'll reassess. But right now, we're going to have to take their advice here and then move forward if we find out that's not the solution. So for that methodology, for that specific communication method, we have a second one we've now identified going forward.
Hey, Brad, and on the granular one that you did,
Yes, sir.
if you recall, when we had that conversation, we were pulling that off the soil samples, and I think it just got missed as a separate. Yeah, because it was throwing off everything because it wasn't a true soil sample, so we discussed it to get the water in a separate page and the granulars in a separate
So
page.
where did you get that test from?
So that was provided to us by the homeowner at 14.
This guy right here. I collected it when the EPA was running around my yard, swabbing that green stuff. And I thought, yeah, I was gonna collect my own.
Concentration of it? Or?
Could you repeat those numbers?
That's like the pure product. Raw material. Pure transportation.
Yeah.
All right, I think we want to start the process with the numbers.
I think we have 7 numbers out. If somebody doesn't have a number yet, we can give you another one.
I don't have a number, but I just wanted to ask a question.
Yeah, the numbers are for asking questions.
Okay.
We passed out the ones earlier.
All right.
Some people might come in during that, so if you want numbers.
So does anybody not have one that wants one?
Apparently there's.
Could you just repeat the numbers for
Yeah,
the granular results, please?
For the granular results.
Yes, please. Thank you.
27,600 for manganese, that is milligrams per kilogram, and 133,000 milligrams per kilogram of potassium.
Thank you.
What was the safe range of manganese, please?
Well, 1,600, if you look at 1,600, if you look at it in the soil.
What was the 0.15?
That was in the water.
That's the drinking water. Yeah, that's all in the report.
Number one.
Well, I just have a question.
And again, we need to please identify who you are.
Linda Patali, we were just order the yellow house. And I guess I understand where you're saying like what's acceptable in grass, but are those supposed to have to eat grass? Like, have you done a study of like what that might mean to the animal that ingests that?
We've not done a study on the grass.
Well, let's the other question is, if the runoff by the gutters, if there's been sitting inside of our gutters and things like that too, should we do further testing to see what, and I know that you did soil testing, but our entire home is covered in this, so should we have done more extensive for like roofs and where it could be collected in certain spots?
So I can speculate about that a little bit. What we started as a baseline for step reviews, and there might be some things that come out of this discussion with the city on additional things to do. So we want to have peace of mind. I'm not here to convince you that life is just all good, right? That's not what the city hired me to do. They hired me to look at specific parameters, right? And so analyzed that was provided to us. That it's, water standard, and it's elevated, and it's a little bit, not a huge amount. It's 8.5, and their safe drinking water is 0.5.
Which is
It's not
safe.
Don't
The
allow
safe testing
animals
rate
to drink
is like
cold water in the yard
It's
because
toxic as fuck.
it can cause poison. And we've been told this whole time that our animals are fine and that we're fine. But you're telling me that this high number of material, the granular stuff,
I think
fell on
maybe
my
the
head.
thing you collected, that would be.
What's that, sir?
I think the water you collected from the rain gutter would not be good, something obviously good for your.
I'm talking about, I'm talking about
But if
the
it puts out your
granular
rain gutters, they
material.
go into the ground.
Granular material that fell on the ground mixed with water because our yards don't drain from the EPA packed clay in it. You know what I'm talking about? I'm not pointing at you, I just point at that. Anyway, our yards don't drain, they pool. Yeah. So everybody's been telling us we've been safe this whole time, and now we're finding out a little different story. That we weren't. That raw pot fell on us that day. And when they said the purple green stuff coming from the sky, nobody decided to go check or test that. I believe you have a chemical test in on you in your fire truck. You didn't come up and swab it to see if it was hazardous, toxic, acidic. Nobody. All over the news. You said in the news conference you had no idea what that stuff was. And you were fighting the fire.
Okay, we're going back to number one.
That's you, Jamie.
Thank you.
Everybody's got a chance to talk.
Thank you. And so for us, we removed our pets from our home, so we have not had our pets at home yet. So I would like to look into that ingestion thing because I know, pet is a part of our family, and I just do not feel comfortable having my pet home until I know that if my lab sees it, that she's not home. And I know that safe for ground, but what happens when all of this does start burning? I mean, it's our plan to test a month from now and make sure everything's still within the normal range.
That number going to go up, does it go down, does it stay stagnant?
So, rainwater and snow, it's all going to build materials.
Where? The clay that we got knocked down about just 5 weeks?
Yes.
So, sir, I'm not here to spar with you. And
Well,
not
I'm
here to
just
convince
asking
you
a question.
Okay, so what I can tell you is we tested samples, soil samples, okay, in a whole bunch of places, and they came well below the remediation.
Do you realize that we were on a Superfund site and all our yards were cleaned up?
Yep.
And nobody sees a problem with that? That any elevation of anything in that yard shouldn't be there? I know what you're saying with the EPA, it's up to the EPA, but, and their guidelines, but
Yes, I have one more thing. Those of us that have to have most of our siding and downtown station and all of that replaced are extremely covered with this material. So did you do any testing to say that whether that should be disposed of within a municipality kind of situation once we start hiring contractors to remove this material? What is the environmental aspect of that?
We did not test materials.
I would like to make sure that, for our white downspouts, we don't have white downspouts anymore. They're completely brown. So for our home, I wouldn't feel comfortable just letting a contractor throw that in a dumpster and going to the city of LaSalle. I'm sorry, I just don't think I should pass my trash to somebody else. I would like that tested to make sure that it's safe to properly dispose of.
Did you say that Carus was taking it to the landfill?
They are hauling materials off-site going to a landfill. I'm not involved with their disposal.
they own their own.
I'm not sure what the process is, but I would say that we should make sure
they
before
do.
anyone.
You brought up a good point, and those folks who actually have their siding, roofing, gutters, downspouts, pipe fascia. Now, we have the insurance forms from Carus on too. We just haven't, in case anybody didn't have them, we'll get a chance to come out to Carus deal with those. But I think that would be something that's a Carus question, right? They're the ones hiring these contractors. They're the ones who are sitting there to the.
That's not really what's happening, just so everyone's aware. We submitted our information for, like, how often we clean our cars, and our cars have zero protection, so you're taking a zero to get ours clean. So we submitted that, but pretty much they've been kind of stonewalling us on like the downspouts and all of our siding. And from our home, we have thousands of dollars worth of cement that's destroyed too. So for our home, Safe Roads that they gave to take care of us, and that means that we hire our own contractor, which means we still have a social responsibility to do the right thing.
And if you feel that way, what I would do is I hire, Jordan Crane, Lansing or housing, right, signing a business. And I say, hey, I want, part of my bid, for you to make sure this is going to designated areas in the landfill. Right, from the city, we have asbestos waste for a certain price of designated that stuff. And that's what you feel comfortable with, it's off charge. Yeah, right, I do the same thing as you would.
But I can say that, but I'm not sure everyone in this room can say that. I can say that I wouldn't want, politely, I wouldn't want Jamie signing going in person with the bells just because he hired as a contractor. I think we have to be responsible as a team.
I know, Rock.
As material goes.
Can I make a comment on the disposal of building materials with residue? Don't get me wrong, residue on your stuff is very unsightly and I want to replace it. I would say it's not a huge health risk, but they should be aware that the workers who are dealing with that, be aware of it. And maybe some testing needs to be done, some white sampling, make sure that they're not getting exposed. And then do for the health and safety and that type of work, make sure that the workers are protected, getting those materials easy. But what we do with that kind of stuff is we take it to the landfill, right? That's not a bad thing. Landfills are lined. That's why we do that. So.
The other question I have is, so this is in our grass, and although it's deemed appropriate, should we be wearing masks to cut our grass in spring or on the like 43 days? So what more should we do to ensure that we're not inhaling this?
So all I can report on is the soil samples that included the grass that was collected. I can tell you that there isn't any concern with that. We can do some more testing of grass if that's what we need to do with our subsidies. If that's something we need to look at,
We take our grass to the city of LaSalle dumping areas, but for us, we're going to take a few bags and I just want to do the right thing. Is it that I want to take it to the city of LaSalle, or would they rather have us in a regular reason?
So I will fall back on the samples that we collected. They included the grass in the topsoil. I think that lower the cleanup of that. So they're lower substantially than the IEPA levels. It did include the grass. Okay. Now, I will say it wasn't strictly a grass sample. Not strictly in grass sample. So if we need to do some additional testing of grass, we can do that. So maybe that's something we can do to take the results.
Yeah, we can find a way to go about that.
I do want to figure out about the ingestion ratio, because our house is how many years.
We have to help. Who's that, please?
ASPCA.
Something we want to do, again, a week, 2 weeks, a month. If you think solution is the solution, maybe we just kind of want to monitor it, same sites, different sites.
Maybe that's a good level of data. Say it was here, we just tested, now it's here.
Maybe samples within is better, but for those of us that have not had a relationship, I would prefer that they take at least 2 water samples from the gutter, like the downspout or something, so we know that it's collecting in there.
Yes, we're good.
You guys taking some notes? I'm not taking any notes on suggestions and things.
I got it.
Yeah, record.
Yeah.
A hard copy. Everybody that we are tested, we'll for sure get our copy of the reports, but we'll also get who's not here. We didn't have the yard, we did one copy to use us. Number 2.
Stand over here. You don't mind. Anything, really.
I won't fight.
All right. I know Rockton, I wanted to bring something up. I know Rockton's got special contractors that's doing that cleanup over there. Maybe that's something we can look into. Because I'm concerned about that too. We also have this in our homes. Our air filters are black, my daughter will be talking. I'm concerned about my property value. We not only took a hit because we're on a Superfund site, and we went to the HE double toothpicks to get our yards cleaned up. Now we have elevated levels. Yes, they're not according to EPA guidelines, but according to my guidelines that I had my yard cleaned up in 2020, I don't even have 2 years on it, and it's already contaminated with something. That's not right. And I think everybody in here can agree with that. I'm really concerned. I'm just really concerned at how downplayed this was played on one level. Why nobody came up and tested anything? Why nobody looked into the green purple stuff on this side that the news and everybody was talking about? Why would the shelter in place do it? That's an hour and 15 minutes after the precaution of a good precaution would have been, hey, let's everybody evacuate. Let's be safe, better safe than sorry. Not leave us in our house. This stuff fell on. This granular stuff that you told me them high numbers, that's the stuff that was on. I'm getting tested on that with the toxology and all that crap. That's my business. It's sad because we're on a Superfund site, and we're surrounded by a Superfund site. Just like that part, we had it all cleaned up. And you guys should be just as upset about it. I like to state that if the person that makes the chemical can't tell us the truth about it, who's going to tell us the truth? Carus Chemical can't tell us they're the maker of this product. They couldn't inform the city that we were in trouble when that stuff fell on us. That's a problem. That needs to be addressed. There's also laws put into place. Emergency Planning Right to Emergency Planning Community Right to Know Act. Sections 302 and 303 and sections 311 and 312 are laws that are put in place for chemical plant emergencies and community right to know what's in them plants. Somewhere along the line somebody failed, and we need to make sure that this doesn't happen again. Carus should be on their own plan. It's the law. How this got missed, I have no idea. I'll find out how eventually. I'm still digging. But Carus should have had a plan not only with our locals, but with other locals. Every responding emergency agency should be informed and have emergency plan in case this happens. Did you guys know that 5 of the 43 chemicals that were in that plant are on the Homeland Security? Get it right here. I'm not saying it. It's on the Department of Homeland Security chemicals of interest. 4 out of the 34 chemicals, 43 chemicals that they have in that facility. They have 43 chemicals in there, and we're only being told 1 came up. That's information. I love it. You can talk about that. So, where did it go? Where's all them other chemicals? I'm talking a lot of chemicals, and a lot of weight. I'm pretty disgusted at nobody taking care of all of. We need to move forward beyond that. And I know you guys probably been waiting for this whole council that. I live on 1409 Porter Avenue. I live 5 blocks north of that plant. I've lived there 25 years, and anyone who lived there before me. We bought this home. We were not told that we were on a Superfund set. Not when we wanted to sell our house, we had to disclose it. At that time, it wasn't. I don't know the thing. Everybody knew it's contaminated yet. That's where all we're in. There's this warehouse behind me. It's called the Apollo Warehouse. Everybody known it as the Carus Warehouse. This warehouse is located at 1439 Porter Avenue. It's not even on Porter Avenue. Go down my 2-block street, you hang a sharp left up a beat up road, and it goes to an abandoned building. Taxed through the county taxes as a vacant building. No, their tax records have not gone up in years. I find out they're a Tier 2 chemical storage facility. Tier 2 chemical storage facility in our backyard is not 100 feet from my house. Semis that I've been complaining about. I went through all my emails. I can't even believe how many pictures and stuff I see. Brian Brown, you, of trucks and complaining. Emails to Carus, ignore. And this whole time, I was right. All this toxic poison product, as we were told in 2017. It's in the newspaper. News Tribune. I can pull it up. 2017, we were told product. Now, product to me and product to anybody in this room means what? Finished material. Somebody in here failed us. Somebody in the EPA failed us. Somebody in IEMA failed us. Because how did this building get a permit to even become a Tier 2 chemical storage facility? Who in the city approved it? I called Ottawa's fire chief, concerned. They were hauling that shit to a real 2-tier facility while you guys let them truck it out for a week before anybody inspected it. Not only the city, the EPA, and a lot of other agencies. I had to file an incident report with EPA after I got jerked around with that. How is the almighty dollar bigger than my life, her life, fire chief's life, his life? And I asked last week if fire chief knew what was in that building, and he told me no. You know why? Because he didn't know. Harris told you guys it was parts. You guys know there's more than parts. If you want to lie about it, you can go ahead. I got the videos and all that to prove it. That's your right. Oh, I'm also told the place is shut down now. I'm also told there will no longer be semis going up my house. I will check and verify it to make triple sure. Because that came from my state representative, the only damn person that helped. The only person that got answers for me were my EPA tests are, because we've yet to get them too. EPA's been dragging their feet. How did they clear the scene that day and say, it's on the news, it's on the news on 111. The EPA got cleared the scene. We're clear of hazards. We did air swab, soil sampling. How did they get that back so fast? And we're still waiting on ours. And they didn't even get up to my place till 112 to even take my sample. How did they clear us as being safe? I'm so sick to my stomach. I've been saying it since it happened. I don't feel safe in my own home. I don't. My dogs go out that damn gate. I'm screaming for them to get in. This can get in. There's a dead deer. Dead deer. Police know about it because their policemen come pull it out of my neighbor's damn yard and put it upside the friggin' fence. And that deer needs to be tested. It's in the back of my damn truck.
Oh my God.
Thank you. So somebody can tell me what I can do with it, we'll figure it out.
Oh my
But I'm telling you what, stuff is going on, deer are coming out. We came up here, they're all in the fence line, they're eating that grass. They already told us it's raw potassium permanganate that fell on us. So they can't cover it up now. And if I wouldn't have took them samples and proactive, because I know how the EPA did us on our cleanup, super fun cleanup. And when I seen all them people swarming my house, I knew that shit was important. Where's the green stuff they kept saying? And I can't wait to get their report back. How can that EPA guy left this scene and tell everybody they're all right when his report says we had this raw material on us? Products. We call it product around here, people. If y'all don't know, it's product. How did this happen? And how did the warehouse get approved? There's going to be answers for this because it's not only the city that dropped the ball on it. Ottawa had to have a town hall meeting. Everybody was notified. That place has got 2-foot walls steel plated, and you got an abandoned building behind my house, a friggin' bomb ready to go off. And if your emergency people showed up, not only these guys in jeopardy, the other towns that show up too are in jeopardy. Because nobody knew what was in that building, and my big mouth had to expose it. And every time I bring it up, I'm sorry, Mayor, you try to deter me away from it. Last week you told me we're not talking about semis. Them semis have been running billions of dollars back and forth. I've been complaining for years, back and forth, all day long. I live on a 2-block, supposed to be a dead-end road. And that's what I got. You put a sign on my front yard, no explanation. Truck route. That's what you did. And I am upset. Because nobody's taking this shit serious, and they never took it serious from the beginning. I called the health department. I called the police department the day that shit landed on me. I told you guys what it was. And it's like everybody just wanted to, let's just cover it up for Carus. Cover it up. And it looks, it's so obvious. It's sickening. I'm sorry. It's sickening. I'm sick to my stomach. Things need to change around here. A chemical plant ain't more important than your residents in this community. I'm sorry, but it's not. I'm going to leave it at that, because there's other people I want to talk to. Thank you. I appreciate everyone for showing up. Appreciate the council.
Do you want us to stand in a specific spot?
No, it's only. Say your name.
I got a display, y'all.
Let's see if you like Brad, so.
I'll stand by you, Sam. So my name is Brianne Hicks. I live on Main Street as well. I brought my air filter so everyone can check that out. I do have a question that just came to mind though as I was listening to everything. I did not have my yard cleaned up from EPA for the Superfund site first. I did have my yard tested so I could have those levels previously. So since manganese was an element that was added to the soil, what has that already done to my soil that already had a certain level of manganese in it?
I would probably ask Jim Ray to have it retested before they do the work, but as long as it's already on the list to be removed anyway, right?
And eventually I haven't heard anything since 2020. The samples are taken.
Well, you never heard back on it?
No, not about like a date of remediation or anything we've done with it.
I'm sure there's.
1513 zinc.
I'll find out.
Like the whole block's been done, so I'm just curious. But anyway.
Yeah, Eric, you guys said yours was replaced, right? I'm sorry, Eric. You guys said yours was replaced?
Yeah, we're the first one.
Yeah.
I'll find out.
Thank you.
So you bought, when did you buy your house?
In 2020, April of 2020.
You had it tested right away, or you asked to test it?
I had it tested in September of 2020.
So you knew that it was basically part of the cleanup area?
Yes, I knew that going into it, yes.
Basically, just figure out what is solar levels, they don't say where we are.
Correct.
No, that was the initial letter to introduce people that have issues, and if you want to have your house individually tested, then I'll have to go further.
I think they all should be. I think they all should be tested.
Yeah, I think also that letter.
And my other question is how were the areas selected for the third party testing? How were those areas selected?
From our meeting, please go.
Yeah. And how were the parks selected and those addresses, and why was it not mentioned to everyone who lived in the area for testing samples?
The testing was meant to gather some initial data. And we looked at some other addresses that we representative of the food.
Okay. Were there areas that, or is it a possibility for us to get our yards tested at this point? Through this?
So Obviously, we're working for the city, so that's something that we talk about.
We'll just contact that. Granted, I know it's been weeks after the fact, the levels are about different, but like, for my instance, I know I've had manganese already in my yard, so.
Manganese is naturally occurring everywhere, right? It's naturally occurring.
Okay, thank you. I'm just going through my notes here. I guess one of my concerns is like, how are we being shown that we're safe from safety?
Yeah, I mean, I'll take this a little bit. You know, I can't tell you that this is, I don't have the knowledge or the I don't want to say intelligence, but I'll say intelligence to be able to say, you know, I understand this, and here's what we do. The only thing that the city can do is bring you the experts like Brad here, EPA, IEPA, IDNR. We have conversations with those organizations, and we rely on them to give us the information that they provide. Ultimately, you know, Brad doing this testing, the IEPA, US EPA getting back to us, that's how we can determine where we are right now. I know that there's some, you know, just societal past, you know, issues with these organizations, but at the end of the day, these are the people that tell us these things. You know, Illinois Department of Health, the South Carolina Department, all of these organizations have been communicated at some point with it. None of these organizations have told us that there's a significant issue. If there was, I would have been right there and said, okay, there's a problem. We need to get this addressed now. None of those organizations have shared that. And I don't want to overstep, anyone can jump in, but ultimately the city of LaSalle can't tell you that. We have to rely on these studies and these organizations to tell us, and then we can refer back to you, bring Brad here, or, you know, follow up with the USDA as an emergency.
And please understand, when we were doing that, we were trying to get a kind of the area of the plume, like Brad had said. And if we had outliers, if we had really high levels in some areas, we were going to narrow down that testing even more. But since we took so many in the plume area, and none of them reached that, they were about half of the remediation level, plus or minus, that we didn't feel at that time it was necessary to, you know, if we would have had some really high concentrations, we would have done more testing to kind of narrow down where we saw that. But since it was all pretty much the same in that whole area, we made just a calculated assumption that, you know, all the testing would be similar to that.
Do we know the impact of how big the plume was, what the radius of our area, of how much it affected?
I believe EPA had put something together.
Yeah, on their website they have a plume map that was available. I don't know to say right now how wide it was or what that means, but I know that they did since they improved it.
That was one of the first things I asked EPA to do, is to have a couple knowledgeable people, because it was all new. I mean, on the 11th, to go and walk the neighborhoods and identify where they saw the stained concrete or whatever was the true tell sign that there was something going on. So I hope that's how they developed that plume. That I know they use some wind currents and some other things.
Proposed, so I don't know exactly how they determine that, but they have their own thing.
Okay.
Public knowledge?
It's on the EPA's website. So if you go to our response.epa/LaSalle, that's not the right URL. Some variation of that on our website. If you go to the bottom of the news events, one of those links should have the top of the Carus Hotline, the EPA website, and all of the press releases we put out that, you know, that set each one.
You know, that's when you have to do like a real full group, like the 408 Street that has really good methods. We can have like a nice maximum communication between the communities available.
Yeah, I did that early on for people that reached out to me. Obviously, we haven't done a specific geographic area like that, but when we go around handing out those studies, I can include a card and say, please email me for future updates.
Will we get a report of Brad's information?
Yeah, it'll be on the website. So what I had available over there, I had grossly not enough copies, I'm going to guess. But we had probably like a 15-page part of the study. The whole study is 50 pages. That whole study will be on our website. What I have written out here is just the kind of summary, pictures, that kind of stuff. But the whole 50 pages will be on the website.
Okay.
Well, I guess I'll bring up my air filter then, because I did change this within about a 30-day period. It is quite black. So we were obviously breathing this in, so that's a big concern for me because we were told to stay at home and we thought that was a safe place, but obviously. So what should we be doing with the circumstances of that? Considering that it was coming straight into our homes.
The filter itself, or?
The chemical coming into our house.
Right. And like I said, I can't be the one to tell you this is what you need to be concerned about. I don't have the information and I'll be able to tell you that. If you'd like to reach out to the EPA, we have communications on our website. They can kind of give you more information.
EPA doesn't reply back.
Stay in the house.
They don't reply back.
I know you
Trust
haven't.
me, they don't reply back.
Yeah, Jamie, I know that you have received replies back. I know that other residents have received some replies back. If you have issues running it, then I can forward along pictures of places you can see it. As far as what you guys mind giving.
Can you guys test that filter? Can you test it?
I'm gonna get it tested.
I know what I'm saying is that he's.
No, I'm gonna get it
Can you
tested.
test that filter?
You can take a 4-inch piece of it, the rest is mine. Ain't playing that one.
And that is a little over it. I understand and respect all of your concerns.
Thank you.
I do want to say thank you to Brian as well because he was very prompt in replying to my email, so I do appreciate you being very prompt on my response.
Now, did you have your tests from the EPA? I mean, that told you it needs to be remediated?
Yes.
Okay, now, just so everyone is aware, last year they had big contractual issues. This year they're planning on doing 200 sites. So I think a lot of them will be done this year.
Okay, I just have yet to hear anything from the EPA since 2020.
I have it on my list to give them a call to see if you, or a text to see if you're on that list. I'm probably up in that area, you probably are.
Okay.
Is my guess.
Where should we be going for more information? Because I mean, I found Facebook, social media, there's your website, Carus's website, and even with Carus, I was checking out the website today, and there was links to the health department and the EPA that did not work.
Yeah, speak to that.
So, what should we be looking for?
You can have our communication website. Right now, I don't think we've had any significant updates to share. We've not been given any new information other than we have here today. This is going on our website. This is going on. I mean, there's no harm in following the Facebook if you want, but if you're looking for information, we can update the website.
And is the health department informed of the results?
They will.
These as well, and recommendations?
We're going to send that out to everybody. After we send it, I think there's some changes we have to make to it. They're waiting if they knew we had it. We're given the preliminary results that Brian shared with you that night. But they'll have to full study here once. And the changes we're making are not statistical, they are, yes.
I did share the results with the EPA too. I wanted to have I was hoping to have some background, like your home, if we would have had your house tested, that we could have compared what pre-fire versus what happened after. But unfortunately, I think most of the homes we tested probably already had been remediated.
Yes.
So,
so most of the area, the house
But
on
we
my
have
block
done
has
race
that done.
testing before, if you got 2020 testing now, we will have.
exactly. So, yeah, I'll talk to US EPA. It's confidential, so I can't get the exact addresses, but I can give them the addresses and then they can compare.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. I think I just had one more point. And I guess this is kind of also going to as well, like the follow-up testing. Is this going to be checked, 1, 2, 3 months down the road? I'm also really concerned about the wildlife, minus the deer being found itself. But just in general, they're exposed to this every day. They're out there when it happened. They are exposed to the waterways, the food, everything is outside. So if it's not safe for our animals, how is it safe for wildlife? Not our pets as well. Get out there.
Where's that deer right now? Is your house in?
In the back of my truck outside.
Can you get conservation officer to take that?
No, I waited 10 hours for them and they didn't come, so I put it in the back of my truck.
As we commit to doing the testing that we did, this baseline we had,
I had a cut him. Somebody said I can't do that.
No.
Can we get more of that on the video? Are you good, Kelly?
I think that's all I have. Thank you for letting me know.
If you want me to take a piece of that, I've got a facility that I can,
I don't have a chunk of
in a
it.
bag, I can,
You want to do it now or after?
probably.
Okay.
We'll be here.
Sorry. But if the city's giving a cost, I don't want to turn it down. Yes, it's
BRI. That will be investigated.
ANNE. Hicks, HICKS.
It's considered chemical release, right?
ANNE. 2 N's.
From this fire, the plume.
Thank you.
What number is this, sir?
7.
More important.
Hello, my name is Dawn Hicks, no relation to Jamie or Graham. So I live about 4 blocks west of Carus. I was home the day that the fire happened, along with my 16-year-old daughter who had just had hip surgery the day before. I was very concerned on not knowing what we should do and what was best. Obviously, I'm not a firefighter, but I do feel that there could have been more steps taken to ensure and not just guess or assume that we would be safe. To the fire chief, do you have a list of all the chemicals that are at Carus? Yes. Okay. So I'm curious to know, being that this potassium permanganate is a very noticeable bright purple. And as far as I have learned, my husband works at American Nickeloid. I have worked places that do involve some chemicals, so I know a little, not a lot, but a little. You had said that you were not aware of what had been burnt that day, what was part of the fire, even with all the purple around and that was being reported. That you did not know. Is that correct? That you didn't know what kind of chemicals?
Saying that?
It was on the news. So, yeah.
At what point was that?
First
that was the very first day. That was the day of, yeah. That you were asked what it was.
Probably
And,
at noon.
I'm not sure.
Right after the fire.
So what's the question, I guess, is, the
So-
fire chief did a great job, and I'm not gonna let people.
I'm not. You credit their
We had
job.
time to control the fire, and we go off of Carus as soon as we could, get the information on what was in it. So,
So my thing is there a plan in place, or was there a plan already in place for such an incident like this happening? And I mean like citywide, as far as when do you consider people should have evacuated, or if they should stay in place, or what helped you come up with that idea? And that's not a
An
disrespectful question, I'm
evacuation-
just generally wanting to know.
An evacuation is a very labor, time-intensive process.
Okay.
So if you are told to evacuate, the first thing should be provided is somewhere to go to. This incident, the fire, was relatively short term. An evacuation would be like if your home was destroyed, tornado, large scale incident where homes were destroyed and you had nowhere to go. There is your evacuation, that's for that case. So technically, in the grand scheme of things, I know you people are experiencing a lot. This was a short-term event as far as the word.
Don, he actually made the call, and it was an hour 15, which is basically like an eternity.
Yeah.
An hour 15 after the issue for shelter in place for third floor.
Well, and like I said, I want to make it very clear, I'm not attacking anyone. I'm trying to understand how you and how the city goes about figuring out what's to a serious point where we should have evacuated, or what was the reason you said no, just stay in place. That's why I'm trying to understand. I'm trying to make sure that there's obviously a plan. God forbid this ever happen again, or in a worse scenario. The other thing is I want to address about the Apollo. Why was Carus allowed to store things back there when there is a gigantic hole in the roof the windows are all boarded. Semis, and I'm not going off of what Jeannie said or anybody else, it's with my own eyes, I have video, I have footage. Why were semis leaving with massive amounts of chemicals and had 0 placards? And when apparently this part, I don't know because I did not ask, because I was following the truck and trying to understand. Why was it that the police were not addressing what would have been a traffic violation? In my understanding, if a truck is not properly labeled with their placards, why is law enforcement allowing them to continue on the roads eating the same stuff? Right. So that's what I'm trying to understand.
Our end, we just can't, I mean, with all due respect, we just can't stop a truck for.
I told your officers what was going on. And they said that we're not state police. You guys can call state police quicker than I can call.
The state police do have people that can do truck inspections.
I called state police, they didn't do nothing. They go to the nothing.
Let them answer.
So there's no doubt, I'll be honest with you,
They're just shitting, it's getting old, man.
Wait, what did you say? I'm sorry.
I know they use that as a warehouse. We all know that they use it as a warehouse. Now, what was in the truck, I don't know. But we know that's their warehouse because we put a truck route sign up.
It's a tier 2 chemical storage facility, sir.
So it's a truck route, the facility's right there.
So it is a legit warehouse. So it is legit,
Not a
like an
vacant building.
abandoned
That building
warehouse.
back there is a tier 2.
I don't know what the thing is, but we don't go to every weekend and go to people's houses to take care of their work in their home.
But you have officers right on the property at the buildings waiting for the semis because some of the squad cars had come in one at a time, escorting semis in. I saw it with my own eyes. Where there's a LaSalle Police Department vehicle and a semi right behind it. They stayed at the gated area while the truckers were loading up.
Again, with all due respect, can I answer that?
Absolutely.
We weren't there to inspect trucks or anything, we were there to keep the peace.
But if they saw something like a possible crime being committed, are they not allowed to investigate or to address it somehow with their concerns? Everything from maybe illegally transporting chemicals as a start.
Well,
or having a building back there. I mean, we know there's people who do fireworks sometimes throughout the whole year.
Yes.
All it would have taken was one bottle rocket to make it into that sizable hole in the roof. And I can't even imagine the safety issues for you guys, and for all of us. And I'm trying to understand why windows are boarded up. If this was a tier 2, there's no sprinkler system, the windows are boarded up, things like the potassium permanganate is supposed to be in a well-ventilated area. Boarded windows, unless you count the hole in the roof, that's not really ventilation. And it's really scary to think what that could have been.
You know what the products were? The chemicals?
I know that they weren't all mechanical parts.
Of it, sir. And Officer Zebron was in that building, unless you're going to have him lie too. He knows what that guy told him they were hauling out. Potassium permanganate is what he said. And there was other chemicals in the building. Now all of a sudden it's a tier 2, and he knows what it is.
Well, and that's what I'm trying to get
When
at.
I asked a week ago, he didn't know.
I don't know whatever was stored in Nicolay. I don't know what's stored in.
You should.
I don't know.
You're the damn mayor.
So I don't know.
Well, and that's just it. What do you need to do to get in? But how do you go about finding out? How have they been able to continue doing
city
this?
attorney and find out what we can and not we have access and should have access to knowledge. I mean, we can't tell somebody to fix their front porch.
What do you mean?
But you
Is that bringing an ordinance?
gone after some people about the condition of their house. and
If
stuff
it's
like
not the
that.
code, it's not the code.
But I was found out from trying to tonight.
But don't you think if that is a safety concern for literally your entire town, that, if you have any kind of connection with Carus, I'm not saying inappropriate, I'm just saying, obviously you guys have talked at some point, why can't you just say, hey, there's a lot of concern from, the people in this community. Why can't we get a couple reputable people in there to observe the state of the building to make sure it's not a hazard, and also, what are you hiding in there? Or what are you storing? Maybe I'll phrase it that way. What are you storing in there? And why has it been forever and nobody knows? And it's like, oh yeah, well we shouldn't be waiting until a bad thing happens. We should be proactive and make sure that we're taking every step possible. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear you.
Unfortunately, nothing happened at the Powell, and so we can try to be in front of that fight.
And the Powell has been inspected now. County got in and inspected.
When?
Just recently, after they chucked it out.
And it was inspected within the, I think it was a week ago Monday.
Right.
I got the date right on a piece of paper.
January 30th.
Yes, we
So
got a
we're gonna go
report.
back
We
to
followed
the
up and got a
Carus
report
fire.
from the county.
And we're gonna make sure we direct that concern and make sure that if anything's put in that building, it's fire.
They're not using that building anymore, I can guarantee you that.
Well, going forward, Bob, your request.
Your little circus you got.
Handle that and diffuse bombs.
Right.
So
So
I'll take
what's the
responsibility-
time frame
I'll
that
take
you need?
responsibility that wasn't caught.
What's the time frame that you need? So that I'm not blowing up your phone and bugging you like crazy, but a reasonable.
Maybe it's in the next couple of weeks.
Okay, that's fair. I appreciate that. Mike, and I'm sorry, you didn't really get a chance to answer. I apologize. Okay, I just want to make sure we're good, and I'm asking these questions because I want to know. Just, raising kids, you want to try to give them the best chance possible.
We know you personally know that we're not going to follow it out. You never find out?
I was 4.
Me.
Hi, Dina.
Hi. My name's Dina Hicks. I am that man's wife. I am very lucky that I have him to be proactive before all of us. However, I don't always agree with the way things go. However, I have a few questions. I work in healthcare. I manage a dialysis building for a long time, and we have to do training. We have to make sure that we even do drills and stuff so that we know what to do when certain things happen. Was there a drill or some sort of a plan in place with Carus, with their chemicals, if a fire was to break out, how you would be told what it was and how to fight it? Correct? You would know these things? Okay, so I don't quite understand how all this kind of just snowballed into nobody knew anything and then immediately everything was okay. And I don't have a whole lot of experience with stuff like this, and I don't usually talk. But what is our city council for? What are we supposed to expect from you all?
So here's how and I can do this now. And that's a good question. So I'm going to do a little timeline that's fresh in my head, and I can ask other council members to see through that. Fire was January 11th. After that, still trying to sort of see the whole Carus officials, find out what's going on.
Sure.
And we're working, obviously, number one thing is to try to get our guys safely. Again, I want to emphasize the lab when you're base funerals this last week. Number two is to make sure we have people on site to try to find out what is the problem there. And at that point in time, we'll work with Carus as we can. And still simultaneously trying to clear the area and address the fire, first and course. We also saw footage from helicopters. It didn't really come. Very good. So a lot of things going on. We're trying to still get information to front. These are communication first to get things out. Chief made and I think it was very proactive to do the shelter in place on R15A. We really still didn't know what that stuff was as far as in that form. You know what it is when it's sitting on a warehouse.
Right.
You know when it's in that concentration.
Right.
When it's up in the air and it's dispersed, is it less toxic? Is it more toxic?
Right.
We're trying to get that information. So basically, by 4 o'clock, when we had the press release, that's when US EPA was here, EPA, and those are, as I mentioned, we're not chemists, you know that.
Yes.
Other stuff, I ain't doctors, but that's not our wheelhouse, right? So we're going to rely, especially US EPA, You know, they're the
Right.
ones who
Right.
check us, so we start planning.
Rely on the professionals, yeah.
So that's where we're going off that information. And before we go into that 4 o'clock news conference, I need to know, because I have thoughts too, kids. I said, here's, you know, what I want to know, what the folks want to know, can people go outside? Can they walk your house? He said yes. To me, that was good enough for me. I'm just strict rope. That's just my own opinion. I'm going to go off the professionals. I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to go on Google. I'm not going to question it. Because again, you know, if you look up, I looked up bleach the other day. You should all be using bleach, really. I mean, if you look at it, I mean, but it's a product we use as long as it's used safely, carefully, in the right products, right? So I think you can look up on MSDA and everything, find issues with it. Depends on how it's being used. You can look on the forums in. Just my opinion. But at the 4 o'clock thing, US EPA was only hearing things about hour and a half, EPA, hour and a half. You know, we're trying to get as much information out. And that's why we had a follow meeting the next day at 2 o'clock to try to have more things dialed in, toned in. We reached out to Lockton, or reached out to Morris, right? See what they did. Say, hey, let's do it simple. And then, you know, Brad Brown come out here. And because we know people because we have deep issues in town, especially in that area. You know, you have family go up there forever, I do too. You know, how those ones were already taken care of. So now it's like, oh, here we go again, right? We want the third party in here to say, hey, there is no cover up, there is no, you know. Now, I would say some people still want more testing. We'll do some stuff that we can do. But if you're not going to be comfortable until you have your own person, but I would do personally, if I wanted more testing, I would hire somebody. I would submit an insurance form to Carus. I'm not going to tell you what to do, but we're to the point now, as far as the city, we're trying to communicate. We're trying to do that bridge. But again, we don't have the answers. Is it okay? You know, the air filters. We're just going off what people tell us, right? So what we're going to do is basically, our answers are going to be exhaustive, pretty much, after today. We do things differently than other communities. Other communities have a public comment. You have to write ahead of time. Hey, I'm Gina Hicks. I want 5 minutes on my road. And guess what happens? They talk. There's no interaction back. There's no answering questions. There's no engagement, right? And that's how some councils do it. We pride ourselves on trying to be, you know, take one town hall. To us, this is a town hall every 2 weeks. Because we want people to feel comfortable talking, giving answers. But again, we got to get to the point where it's like, unfortunately, we as a city, as your council, we can do now is just try to keep the information flowing. We don't have the answers. So we're trying to block out the middleman and get you to those questions in EPA. We don't have authority over US EPA. They have authority over us. They're the ones that find us. You know what I mean? So it's a situation where we're going to do our best to try to put you the right people, but unfortunately, sometimes it's like, you know what, you're not getting back to the US EPA or EPA. And Jamie's doing the right thing. He's going to Lance. Lance can control the IEPA. He has authority over it. You know, we can't say we want these results. Lance can. But it's going to get to a point where we're going to be here and we're going to listen to concerns, but we're not going to have answers. You know, we're trying. And I think the idea that Brent said, and I think regardless of us, can we have a group, you know, email thing where as more information comes in, we can just put it out to you. That's great. But again, it's a situation where I don't know how much more we're going to get. Obviously, people that's not to see this out. But this seems like John's question. You can answer that. We're going through a crush of errors on the whole scene of what happened. Is there anything we can do different? We do have an action plan. I'm hesitant to do the action plan because we have places for secondary and tertiary places of like a command center, and we really don't need a lot of people to have that. Right? So, you know what? If there's a bomb threat in LaSalle, Lincoln, let's go down to that's our second. You know, we don't want people to know that information, but we're willing to probably read that stuff that's important. You know, as far as safety wise, we get that information. We do a plan. Again, you have the best plan possible, and there's always ways in close lives that you can learn to actually do it.
Right.
You have a culture in front of you that work at a industrial plan. Things happen. Sometimes you have control. You can plan for the best. You know, I'm very proud of this team. I think we did the best we do. Again, bottom line is nobody got killed, nobody got hurt. We did still have some remnants in there. Right now, I'm pretty comfortable with the report that in the concentration that's in the yards and in the water, that I would feel comfortable.
Right.
If you're asking me, that's my opinion. Again, the situation is, at some point in time, we're going to say, you know what, let's go ahead and go to the professionals on this, and we're going to just, have to, we'll be glad to have common time, but we're not going to be able to engage. It's the same stuff over and over. Individually, and we've been asking. Wednesday, first flyer, we asked somebody who reached out and said, hey, we want some answers, and Brent said, great, this is questions. And so from Wednesday before the last council meeting, we done the first council meeting after fire, we got nothing. Until that meeting, and then we got answers. I'll recognize Pat Walter. She called. We tried. We were fortunate to get her an answer. She said, "Thank you." But again, some things we're going to be able to get answers for. Some things we're not. Some things we're just pushing in the right direction. But Ms. Hicks, as far as wildlife, I don't know. I'm not a zoologist either. So I don't know. Those are good questions. But we're not going to have that all-knowing stuff on that. And from the reports I see from Mr. Brown, I think as far as the concentrations in the ground, in the water, we're testing air now. I think it's very comfortable to say we're in safe mode. Again, that's my interpretation of the results. No scientists are going to say, "Hey, this is 100% foolproof." We never do that.
No.
But from the information we have here, I'm very comfortable. I'll be glad to go to your home and drink some water and let my dog use your yard. I feel that comfortable.
Okay, so
I think that's a point where it's like it's not productive for the city council or for folks just to come out here and if we don't have any new information for you to go over the same stuff over and over. And I know it's an issue at hand. And I know you said it's hard for you, and I understand that. You guys were ground zero.
yes. So another question is where we have the roof runoff where it was a higher level and it comes down our downspouts and in the grass there. Can we have that tested? That soil from that area? Would that be possible?
I was going to bring that up. My concern is about the roofs. The runoff from the roofs, the particulate matter, that needs to be retested. I don't know what it's going to cost us. We don't have to build anything. So we don't.
Yeah.
So the same thing.
We're trying to do our own testing for folks who need peace of mind for people.
Right.
Obviously, we use EPA, USDA, hopefully those results come back. And again, you're right. But the first call that day, we were going off of what CARES told us, and that's why we raised the, the shelter in place.
All right, thank you.
One of the things I think also is just bring out is the fact that I think each and every one of us, because I've already done it myself, is to check your basement in your car. I mean, not just the trunk of your car, the basement, and other things in your house that you have chemicals that you've probably got stored somewhere to make sure that you're not the kind of chemicals that should be there. You should check your own home. This is a wake-up call right now. And we need to all check our homes and our garage to make sure that we've got the proper kind of chemicals that we don't have to worry about in comparison to something like this that can happen even in a person's home. Because we don't know what our neighbors put in their garage.
Yes.
Hello.
Sir, how are you?
I'm doing alright. My name's Cam. I live in 1419 Porter Avenue. I was here last 2 weeks. First thing I want to say is I completely understand from a professional perspective what it's like to sit up there and have a bunch of people throw questions at you and you already presented your answers. I deal with that all day, every day. I know exactly what that feels like, and it can get really hard when you care about people and you have no more to present than what you just presented, because you want to be there and that's why you did that, and I see that and I understand that.
I appreciate that.
But
that's one reason why the council wanted to have an outside.
I appreciate that, and I think there was some great information that was brought from that. I've worked with a lot of chemicals in my job. I've both been a mechanic, I've been a chemical cleanup guy, I'm certified in chemical cleanup. I've dealt with stuff like this. I do think most of that data, the data came from a completely non-binary source that had no connection to anything Carus related at all. This wasn't Carus Chemical coming to tell us that. So with me saying that, the thing that I'm stuck on, and I understand that you guys can't answer the questions, so I have a few questions that you guys can pegboard off people who can answer the questions. That's really what I'm coming here for. Isn't for you to give me an answer as much as maybe find somebody for me to ask it. Is when we do the testing, why aren't we testing for all of the chemicals that were available in the area that the fire happened, not just the ones that they were reporting? I've actually been a part of hazmat cleanups in places that I've worked, that the stuff we were telling people were there was more that got caught up into it. And sometimes it's not a criminal act. I believe people are good inherently, but sometimes in the height of the moment, what we think happened to what actually happened are two different things. Or sometimes, various chemicals can permeate other containers, and then those can be brought up, and so what they're telling you is what they believe to be the truth, but that's not the case.
Your requirements, again, we were told that particular.
Yeah, is of highest concentration.
In that part of the building, my understanding is that's where that is stored, that's where that is processed.
I completely understand, but
So you're still going to do that?
we have a storeroom at work that I know that we mostly have one container of, but we also have flammable cabinets full of all sorts of other stuff.
Okay.
So that's as far as I'm going to hit on that. I know you've already heard that tonight. The manganese levels were of higher elevation than healthy levels in the water that was located on the roof. What I know about manganese is actually, if you go on the SDS, which I actually have it on my phone, it's the real SDS provided by the safety people, that there isn't actually a lot of information as to what manganese can do to you over longer terminations. We are pretty certain that it can cause neurological issues if you're in high exposures of it over long-term use, which I guess a residence really would be. I want to know, I understand that the more you add water to a solution of anything, you're going to dilute it, but you're still going to have a lot of manganese around. What can we do to remove the manganese from the area? Because there's drainage issues with the cleanup, there's water sitting in pockets. The manganese needs to be addressed. It's unsafe. I understand, again, you guys can't do anything about it right now, but I know you guys can tell somebody, or you can direct them to somebody, to help us with that.
From our understanding right now, the amounts that we're coming into our sewer plant that we process and produce that into the wild, that our plants can take those.
Yes, I agree.
Now, the holding ponds on Carus Chemical, they're literally going to bring in an outside, basically the water treatment plant, and they're going to process that right there, and then put in the city sewers at a central rate, and we're not going to allow it to be not, and then we're going to process it again before it goes out.
That's not the water I'm talking about, though. The water I'm talking about is the potassium permanganate came from the air, landed on our homes, the water reacted with it, it became manganese, some form manganese, some of them are oxidous, some of them aren't.
Groundwater or in the water, right?
Yes, and some of it is on the property in stagnant ponds, and that possesses a risk in long-term exposure, and it's there. What do we do about that? Because it's there. Do we just rinse it into the storm drains, and since it's being treated somewhere else, that's good, because I know that there's manganese in the water where we live. Okay, enough there. Is there any way that potentially you could direct me to somebody, or we could find somebody that could find cause of death of the deer?
Actually, I just told Jamie this, the DNR is picking it up tomorrow and the biologist is going to test it.
Okay.
For chronic wasting and for toxicity from the...
You guys have my information, so if there's any way you could let me know the results of that, that'd be great.
I texted Conservation Police and I asked them if they could come get it, and he said he'll get it tomorrow.
Is everybody comfortable with that?
Yeah, well, is there are they going to test it right away? Because
I don't know. I just asked him to come get it.
Right, but what I'm saying
He's going to
is
have a
that
biologist look at it right
I
away.
think, it's right away, because there's a certain amount of time between the time it dies and the time it
Thank you for doing that. I really appreciate that. I think that's going to go a long way in making you feel better, especially if the cause of death is a deer living in the woods.
Yeah, he said they're going to test it for chronic wasting and anything that might be related to eating grass or the fire or whatever.
I really appreciate that. Thank you. And then lastly, I'm directing this towards the police officer in the room. Who is in charge of enforcing CDL violations?
CDL violations?
Because I know that we have our three most important criteria for a placard. You have what type of material it is. Is it a liquid? Is it a fluid? Is it a chemical? You have what it's going to expose you to. Is it flammable? Is it radioactive? And then you have weight. What's its weight? That's what that placard is supposed to tell you. I know that they're required to have it if they're on a road. They're required to expose those. I know that because I've driven a truck that we had to have those on, and there was no exceptions. It had to be on. It even had to be if it was in our parking lot. You had to have the placards exposed. Who is the person who's responsible for enforcing that? Because I understand that there was a police officer there, and maybe that wasn't his job. I get that.
Right.
But who is?
He wasn't there for the inspection of the trucks. He was merely there for
Yes.
a separate issue. But as far as something like that goes, we're not qualified to do truck inspections like that. That's something that US DOT, the state police have truck inspectors that actually will go out and literally stop a truck and inspect it from
Correct.
back.
Yes, and I've been a part of one
On
of those.
something like that, you know, a call to the state police.
As a heavy recovery guy, I've been.
With all due respect, again, on our end of it, we would make a traffic stop that probably cost the vehicle code, and I'm going to be bluntly honest, a lot of my guys wouldn't know how to do a truck inspection. We're in the city. It's just like the state guys are out on the interstate. We kind of put it that way, and we're in town dealing with our own thing. But like I said, in terms of if you're talking about a CDL violation, now that's something different.
Well, it is.
But in terms of inspections, like with, I mean, we're trained with hazmat. We take our hazmat certifications. But in terms of, you know, if we ran into a problem, we stopped the truck. Say we had a vehicle code violation, we stopped the truck. I'm just going to be bluntly honest. We'd probably be calling the state police or the US DOT guy to say, hey, this is what we got. What do you think?
So, as a police officer, having a report like there's a placard that's not being properly displayed, why aren't police officers contacting the next channel to have somebody address that? Why isn't that being addressed?
I really can't honestly tell you what was in these trucks. I really don't know.
I know you can't tell us what's in the trucks, but that's the point of the placards. That's why you can't tell me what's in the truck. That's the problem.
If you know about DOT requirements, it goes by product and weight.
Correct.
So if it doesn't meet that threshold, it doesn't have to be placarded.
That's true.
So if the hazard isn't there, which...
So basically what you're saying is, I'm just trying to explain this so I can
What's
understand.
that weight, sir?
So,
1,001 pounds or more of a table 2.
That's what I thought. Thank you.
I have
If
video
it's
of
table 1, it's
multiple
any
pallets
amount
of
at all.
bags of stuff.
And that has a special requirement in tote. It has to have the UN number on it.
Thank you.
He's a trainer.
Well, now you exposed where I'm before.
So, if since this has been reported, since this has been documented, since we are aware that this has happened, is there any way that we could backlog, go through the information, and figure out if that was a violation, and then go through proper channels? And if that's the case, there could be reconciliation for improperly doing it?
Well, I like the mayor's comments a little while ago. We're going to probably sit back and find out. First, let's find out what was in. I really don't know what was in this hole in the roof facility myself. I mean,
Well, it's a poorly maintained facility for sure.
It's a
directly
tier
behind
2
the house.
facility.
I hate to figure
No.
but I don't know.
I completely understand.
Right.
No, and I'm not here to make
I mean, as a
accusations.
kid, I used to go back there and shoot BB guns
Yeah.
and stuff.
Yes.
That building's been back there, but I didn't know what was in the building.
Correct. I'm just saying.
Like I don't know what's in anybody's houses here. I don't,
It would go a long way in the faith of the people that live in LaSalle to see blatant, improper usage of placards and displays and safety to be addressed and found out if that was right or wrong. And if it was wrong, there should be something should happen. Because I've done things that are wrong and I've had to pay for it. You know, he's done something wrong and he's had to pay for it.
Yeah.
He's done something wrong, he's had to pay for it. Why did they get to get away with it? I don't think that's fair.
Right. I understand. I don't think it's a matter of letting anybody get away with it. I mean, but I don't know.
I get it. But it's been documented. I feel like it could be found out. Thank you. I appreciate your guys' time.
The whole purpose of placards are for first responders. They're the first ones on the scene. They need to know what they're dealing with, what to address, what things to eliminate from the area. They're the ones that are at risk.
I used to have to deal with those because I did rollovers in the rotators and snow dance on semis all the time, and we would immediately go address those. We had chem suits. We knew what we were dealing with. We had to go rotate over a truck that had hydrochloric acid. There was particular instructions that we had to use to follow those things. I just don't understand how, yes, that police officer wasn't there for that. It was being, commented that this could be a problem, and then we didn't follow the proper channels to go ahead and continue to address the problem. Because if there is somebody else that needs to be called, that would definitely be a possibility to get a professional out there to take care of that. But yeah, I'm not here to accuse anybody.
Can I make one comment on that too? The fact that semi, the purple one, that we all know the driver doesn't know how to drive, and he's gotten caught up on a rock, almost flipped over 3 times. I wish someone would have told me, or the city when we have called to complain about the poor driving, that if that guy was carrying that in his truck and still that in the residential
Carus
area,
owns that company that drives
or
that truck.
wrecked that vehicle in our area and hit a vehicle, which he comes for so many times that we have to hold.
I just don't believe it's fair that we're told as people who live in LaSalle to refer to the police department when we see violations like that, and the police department can tell us something like, well, that's not our job. Because if that's not your job, then why am I being referred to you? Who am I supposed to refer to? You know, I feel like when I'm a professional and I'm being put to something that I don't know what I'm supposed to do, I'm supposed to find the professional, as a professional who heard that, to take care of the problem. Find somebody who can take care of it for me, which is what you guys are mostly doing. I understand that. But we have to move forward. We have to do something better, and I believe you guys will, because I have seen changes. But it happened. And
You hit my car.
Yeah.
Or I hit your car.
Sure.
The police aren't going to go with you.
They're not going to look in my car, no.
You don't have rights.
No.
Okay. So if the police are called up to Porter Avenue, it's not because the truck did anything wrong. They're there because there's obstruction in the road. What legal? We have to look at legality. What can the police officer do to look in that truck?
Jamie, did you call? Jamie,
What obstruction is in the road?
Jamie, did you call?
The ticket I couldn't get because they were trying to give me one. They had 5 officers up there. What do you mean?
This is my time. When you called the police department, did you tell them about the placard? Did you report that?
I talked to the officers right there.
And you told them that you saw a placard that wasn't there, right?
4 different officers.
Okay, so there was a report that there was a placard that wasn't being exposed
And
correctly.
they said Officer Smajinsky sent them up there because I was on private property videotape.
And what he just told me was
I parked my car.
When you have somebody who you can't address it, you find somebody who can. So you could have on probable cause.
Speeding does not mean that I can, as a police officer, go to Jeff Rowe and give him a speed sheet.
You can hold that truck and get a professional over here to look at it, and they could say, "Hey,
Here, guys, I was sitting in
we don't know what's in there."
Like this.
As I talked to Dawn, she gave me 2 weeks. We'll try to get done sooner. We're going to make sure if there's any traffic, and it sounds like they might not be using that facility. If there is any traffic, it will be black. We let guys check in.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
You can't go back, bounce them off. We're going to correct it.
I've personally experienced police departments coming after me for things that I've done in the past, and it hasn't been that long.
We haven't been able to do that in single South.
Well, there's a list of what they carry on there, and it's in a record. So you can go back and look on this day and at this time. What was this truck carrying to Ottawa, and see how much everything was, the weight of it.
There's a log somewhere. And
so
if I hit a car,
Like I said, it comes to 1-4. We're going to make sure that's not an issue.
Okay. I know if I were to hit a stop sign and not report it, and then 2 weeks later they figured out that I hit the stop sign, I'd be getting a ticket for it.
That's true.
So stuff takes time. I've been in traffic court. It takes 6 months sometimes to get a court hearing. So it hasn't been that long amount of time. And I like that we're changing to move forward, but sometimes we need to address what happened, because that's how behavior changes, is by having to pay a consequence. When you pay a consequence, you remember that. You don't do it again. That truck driver is driving for other people. He's driving in other towns. He's driving in other communities where he might be pulling things without a placard because he thinks that's okay. Because he thinks you can't go inside of it and figure out what the weight is because it's not 1,001 pounds. And maybe that's the case. Maybe it wasn't 1,001 pounds, but we could figure that out, or we could try to figure that out. And I want my police department to know that if I report to them, because that's what I'm supposed to do, that the proper people are going to be contacted and they're going to be asked to do their job. And if the case is that they're fine, that's great, but that didn't happen. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Lisa Dias, and I live on 6th Street. First of all, I know you guys aren't miracle workers, but I want everybody in this room that doesn't live in my neighborhood to imagine you did. First off, imagine you live there. Imagine everything you own full of that crap. Imagine your car full of chrome needing replacement. Phone calls after phone calls. Countless days off work from there already. I do senior citizen home care. My little people are home by themselves because I'm trying to make phone calls, etc. Okay, so frustration. And it is a miracle no one was hurt. Employees, first responders, Thank goodness, that's number one. But with the numbers, is your name Brad? Okay. Brad, I'm glad you're here. With the numbers and things that are acceptable or near acceptable, I have a son who has one kidney, and it is not a fully functioning kidney. Anything like this can be an extra danger to him. I know because when the EPA found out with the Superfund site, they wasted no time coming to clean up my yard. Mine was the very first yard they did. I know it's other chemicals, but still, when you say this is safe levels, that's safe, yeah, for somebody with no medical condition. I mean, I know they can cause harm to kidneys. So to me, when you say that's safe, that is not safe. I'm sorry. That's EPA, almost like anybody with a medical condition, brushing them off. And to me, that's almost being negligent. All these people here live in my neighborhood. That's where my son lives. He's in that neighborhood. He's in those parks. He has every right to be. So you cannot tell me all those levels are safe.
These are, and you, but obviously you shot your own competition. That's be vital shot too.
But they're not chemical experts.
Right, so they're helping. They should know that's bad for, you know,
Exactly.
this situation continue. I mean, obviously Brad can't answer that, and I can tell you that, hey, that's, you know, I'm sure there's like different situations that would be different third parties.
Yes, and they are. But
And
who do I go
mean
to now with that?
You talk to them, right, and you make sure they got that.
So who do I talk to now with this new? And all of us in here who have yards cleaned up are quite bitter because pretty much part of my land is did a shit show. They destroyed my driveway. I have weeds growing all in my yard, so we're all a little bit bitter about it. Trying to deal with the EPA or on something different. But who do I go forward with talking about getting my yard tested? And how do you deem that it's safe for a child with, let's just say, half a kidney function?
You got full one kidney function.
But it's not fully functional, it's not a perfectly formed kidney.
I would say engineers and scientists. Say that the EPA levels that they've established are very conservative. So they say the property we want to at least be at this level. And the levels we found are back to 50% less than so you get half of what the EPA has said. Those are acceptable. So, does that mean it's acceptable for you and for your son? I think I can't answer that. You can also say we just speaking in general terms, but look at exposure routes. So, how do we get that type of stuff in our system, other if it's in the soil? You know, in a very quick time, it won't be right? Grasses. But it's in the soil. So I wouldn't get it in the soil. So you have to ingest soil, right? Something that's doing that. So your son is well played, you know, when we were kids. But that's kind of what the levels are based on. If you have children playing in the playground, you know, they're going to be playing with their hands, and, you know, they're fingers in their mouth, and their nose, and whatever else. So that's what those levels are based on. Ingestion, inhalation, if it's dusty, fish breathe it, so absorption through our skin. So those are the pathways that we would get exposed to that. I use asbestos as an example. It's relative. Asbestos is bad, right? We all know it's bad. But you know what? Our schools and our institutions are full of asbestos. Okay? But are we getting harmed by that every single day? Probably. Because we're breathing the particles. It's locked in the building materials. It's pipe insulation and things like that. And it's a little bit, you're not just using it as an analogy, but as we look at, what is my son going to be exposed to, right? So if we say we get levels that are 50% less than the highest level that the EPA says, that's pretty good. That's a pretty good chunk of data. Okay, then what is my son going to, how is he going to be exposed to it? Is he playing in the dirt? Is he going to be, hitting on maybe don't play back there and have that horse and so those are the kind of things that we look at.
And I have another thing, like, I myself have a swimming pool in my yard. I know some of my other neighbors do. Now, when I open my swimming pool, I don't know if a big surprise or not. And I have faith that Carus will do whatever. We have these tarps over our pool, winter covers. And of course, there's ice and there's water sitting there that is frozen. So is this stuff just...
That would be a perfect example where there's probably a higher concentration.
That I have a neighbor now. I know the city, I believe, sent out papers that you can kind of complain about their neighbors if they don't keep their property. Because I'll be complaining about mine, not you guys, but somebody who lives right next to me. They have all kinds of junk in their yard, and water is just pooling, and wheelbarrows and all kinds of stuff. So I'm glad to see that, because that'll be a spring cleanup. But thank you. I'll talk to my professionals and.
Big list, let's get that to the rest. Right, but I need to reach out to the EPA again, remember, just to see what their thoughts are on that.
Yeah, that was the US EPA. No, not about this yet.
And your healthcare professional too, as the scientist indicated, your healthcare professional, because Mr. Brown can talk to the science that he knows and that he has a background in. To a degree that touches on certain things in the medical area, but he doesn't want to get over his skis here and make any false representations to you or to anyone here. Right. Particular individual health, everyone, we all, in any kind of a potential issue, we have to check some of that out with our own perspective healthcare professionals.
So if I go through my healthcare profession, you all probably don't know the answer, that's not a brilliant. But I get information that these chemicals are bad. Where do I go from here with that?
I'd say you have to talk to your insurance company or carriers and say, listen, this is going to be an investigation. What are you going to do?
But this is his neighborhood.
Right, I'm thinking with your specific situation with your child, that would be a situation. And that's an option that everybody has. If you're upset about your yards and even if the level is not appropriate to you, if I were you, I guess I can't give a recommendation, but you're able to reach out and say, this is not going to make it, whatever I can do.
Thank you very much, everybody.
Pat, we do have your
I do, yeah. Pat Walters. Brad, I want to thank you for your presentation. And my question is, I guess what I hear you doing is providing us with just the raw data. These are the numbers, but not interpreting the numbers. And then I hear us interpreting the numbers however we think, or being referred to a doctor.
Why are you keeping information?
Stop that. So with a doctor that may or may not be an expert in toxicology. So do you think that it would be fair to ask Carus Chemical to provide a doctor when we do the testing and have the numbers, a toxicologist that could be made available to these neighbors that have specific questions? Because our regular doctors here, they wouldn't know from anything, but there are, Jamie, aren't there doctors that toxicologists or
yeah, I had to call poison control today because you go to your healthcare doctor and they don't know what to do. I called poison control and replaced them in Chicago and South Hospital. They test for
Yeah, so maybe you could share that information, and, you know.
I think that's a very fair request to share this.
Yeah, I think, I mean, these people deserve to be made whole. I mean, they're definitely suffering. And I have some questions about the range, okay? I think it was the manganese that had a range of like 60-something to 3,000. So how do you get a range that's thousands? I mean, what kind of range is that?
That is based on data from the IEPA that they have tested all over the state.
Right, so what's the low range and what's the high? I don't
That
get
wasn't
it.
our range.
Right,
That was
right,
the-
yeah, no,
okay,
I'm saying I don't understand how they come up with the range.
Why don't you explain what
Yeah.
the range means?
3,000.
There you go, thank you.
Yeah, let me get that in front of me so I can speak about the background levels. So background levels are a whole bunch of data, and there's this stuff was put together by the IEPA, and they combined thousands of tests. I'm kind of speculating about how many, but tests all over the state of Illinois to establish what background levels are. They've divided that up between metropolitan statistical areas and non-metropolitan statistical areas. And so when we look at the data set, it was 280 to 5,600, right? So that just meant background levels, right? That's for potassium. So that just means the background levels that they found throughout the state of Illinois went from 280 to 5,600. Okay? That's not saying any one of them is safe one way or the other. Okay, that's just saying what the background levels are, right? And for manganese was 61.5 to 3,700. Yeah, that's what the average background levels are. Okay, nothing about safety. For manganese, they do have a limit of 1,600. That is their residential congestion remediation objective. So they've established that we think the IEPA thinks that the level of 1,600 milligrams per kilogram for manganese is safe in our soil. That level or below is okay.
Okay, so I'm a realtor, and one of the disclosure questions are, do you know that your house was ever a crack house? And the reason that they ask that question is because crack houses have elevated levels of toxins. People will not buy houses with elevated levels of toxins, and so I don't know if there's if you were an appraiser, you wouldn't appraise a house that was, I don't know, in LaSalle, the same as you would appraise a house in Chicago. You'd take the houses in LaSalle to come up with a value. So is there some way that the EPA can narrow those numbers down to make it more realistic to us? Or do you think that 1,600 is like an aggregate number? Or?
No, the 1,600 is a firm black and white limit.
Okay.
They say if it's below 1,600 and you're doing a remediation project, that's clean. They consider that clean and acceptable.
Really? Okay.
If it was above 1,600, they would not consider that clean and acceptable.
Okay, but then it goes back to acceptable for whom? I mean,
well, acceptable in general. Again, everyone can have a specific item or concern that they need to investigate individually. But he is indicating that what the EPA set for not just us in LaSalle, but for the public in general, and it's IEPA, these are IEPA ranges that IEPA theoretically uses to determine if they go in to be concerned about contamination and whether it's going to be, in their opinion, safe for the public. I don't want to speak for them per se, but they have remediation levels. If it's higher than that, they think it needs to get fixed. If it's lower than that, they think it doesn't. Am I right?
That is correct.
Right.
So when you're getting into lower than that for particular purposes, I think you have to get your own scientist or your own particular health concern to have it investigated. But at least IEPA is suggesting that in general, when you're below that level and in the lower range, it doesn't need to be fixed according to their parameters. Is that right?
That is correct. So, for example, if we were taking our sample results and we went to the IEPA and said, hey, we want to make Carus clean this stuff up, and IEPA is going to look at it and say, well, your results are less than our cleanup level by about 50%.
That's why we got also an independent scientist here, and to also give you folks the benefit of what information we can get in raw data.
Right.
Perhaps broader raw data than we'll get. We're certainly here to.
No, I think this is very valuable.
And now from there, I'm not suggesting the city can solve everybody's individual particular issue, but we can hopefully, with this assistance, give you some guidance on what you might want to check out further because of your own particular situation. And that might require a combination of your own scientists and your own medical experts. Sorry to say that. And then, if you feel you've been wrong, then you've got to perhaps have a private cause of action against Carus yourself.
I see that.
If that's necessary.
Right.
Everybody needs to evaluate on their own.
Right. And then my other question is still with the numbers. So how could the particulates from Jamie that landed on him that you collected that were over 100,000 and then everything else be like 0.08? I mean, how does that concentration all of a sudden become that concentration?
Because the particulates that we tested, that was the material that was falling out of the sky, right? So it's just like if you tested milk, right, and it's going to be 100% milk, but it's if you poured it on the ground and you took a sample of the ground, then it's going to be a little bit of milk, right? It's going to be some soil, and by the time it's rained on, it's going to be washed out and that sort of thing.
Okay. All right, that's good. And then I have a question for the city. If the cause of the fire remains undetermined, who's paying the bill?
I don't have an opinion on that at this time. I suppose that's
The fire apparatus stuff that's damaged for
Yeah, I mean, because the next day there were at least 2 water mains that broke.
Well, I think the city, I don't know, it depends what bills you're talking about, but cleanup bills and things of that nature, as you said, remain under investigation, final determination haven't been made.
Okay, because I think that it's important to determine the cause of the fire. From everybody knows people that were there at the site. Pretty much, it should be determinable what happened.
Well, you have independent government agencies besides the city, and the state fire.
I'm not. No. I mean, I'm not.
State fire marshal.
State fire marshal, right? I just think that it should be determinable. And then, just in closing, I want to say that I think all these people here believe in LaSalle. They just want to make it easy.
Jeff, I do have one more question. Who is paying for Brad's services? Why? Why is Carus not taking up that charge?
Do that, but I think we all here feel it's that important that they don't need to have being reimbursed for that.
I think the city felt it wanted to make the investment to protect the citizens and take an extra step on your behalf. And certainly the city will be considering and investigating, seeking remediation potentially. And that's not
That's not number one on our list.
No, definitely not. But I was
the
just
city's
wondering.
main concern, I think the mayor and this administration's main concern is trying to be sensitive to the concerns of the public and residents, to get an independent expert to give you some help that you didn't have before we had this.
We also wanted him working for us, not for Carus.
Yeah. No, that's why I was just wondering. I don't think it's fair that you guys have to go out. I mean, I'm glad you went out of your way to do this, but responsibly, it should be them paying for it.
I do think it's admirable that he did that for sure. It's just there's a lot going on.
That's why we do this. We tried. We weren't perfect, but we're ever trying. This is one way to show that. Right here. We want to try to get that information out as soon as possible. Some people call, and it looks pretty good. Brad wanted to make sure he had that full report, and give time to make sure that we get to it, and present tonight.
Within several weeks, you got a 40-page report. It doesn't answer all the questions, but you have a lot more information than you had before you walked in this room, and it's going to be made public. Nothing's being whitewashed, nothing's being hidden. Everything's out there in public. He made one mistake in something, he owned it. He corrected it. Besides, it's in another part of his report that's going to be online. City's going to be transparent on this. Try and help the public as much as it can.
Well, for me as a realtor, it's helpful too, because I have to disclose anything that I know, and the more that I know, or if I can say, go to the city website and take a look at it yourself, that helps, because right now, I can tell you lenders are not lending in that area, and people were putting their houses up where they thought that they were priced correctly, and they were getting tens of thousands of dollars less because of being in this area. Not because of this one, but because of the last one. So it's a problem. It's a long-term problem.
Sure. Since manganese is found organically, and the stuff that was put on our property is inorganic, is there a way to delineate the study so we know what was naturally occurring and what was elevated because of this?
I think the only thing we could do, we try to talk about Ms. Hicks, we hope we have it tested from before, she bought her house in 2020, and we test it now, and then we might have that as a baseline, but I think, I don't know, Brian, once you agree, you need a baseline, you don't have a baseline.
Correct. That's the only way to really come up with good information, that baseline.
So I'm glad to share that information, because I think Ms. Hicks, I promise, is important.
No, I can share that.
So there's really no way to tell the difference between the particles between organic and inorganic?
So, let me just try to answer in a basic way, because I don't understand what they do with the lab to provide that stuff out. I'm not the lab chemist that so I can try to track down the answer, but I don't know the answer to that. The report is total.
Hi, I'm Carol Williams. I'm from Ottawa, and I'm so sorry to hear what's going on in the city. But my daughter, who works for the Sierra Club, is very concerned about you all, and she had me come here on her behalf and say, I'm so sorry to hear about this. But another thing I'm concerned about with Ottawa is I'm understanding that our Southtown Mall is storing chemicals in there. That's what we've heard. So I don't know. I'm kind of concerned about where I live because I don't live that far from Southtown Mall. So I don't know if that's something I should be concerned about or.
I think they ended in July of last year.
Really? I had no idea. I know that mall is relatively empty.
That's probably an Ottawa City Council problem.
I wanted to send my support to you guys. I'm really sorry about everything that's going on. So.
Thank you.
Listening to me.
I got one more comment. Mike Natalia, live at 1446 Porter Avenue. I'm just curious if people like maybe get the gutters tested inside the gutters. Well, if he's still available, if they could test whatever runoffs in the gutter, that way we know if maybe they could wash the roof in some kind, flush the gutter into some kind of container and suck it up, compared to letting it run in the yard if it's high level. I don't know if there would be a plastic tote they could put under the runoff and they could contain it if it's high level. As we were talking, I just thinking about that. What about all the settlement? Off the road.
What we want to do is to do some testing, maybe some web samples in the gutter, maybe on the roof, to determine what the levels are, and check the level of contaminant that would be in the water. That would change.
People like dumping the cover off a pool into a yard if it's full of contaminant, to be able to kind of help her figure out the best way to do that. Without making it work. And I get that the levels you're saying are half of what we need, but it's half of what we need and we just add a half more, and we just contaminate the not productive. We're trying to do the right thing.
Yeah, so what we do with the one with the drain cover right on, dirty.
Is there any basis you can give us as to how much?
He wanted to do this.
How much material is that?
The highest level would be look at our own range, which 955 is the highest level. I see lowest one is 543. So I can explain it better than 1600 was full, and we're at 955. So that's just half full, so to speak.
Did you accidentally go over, or would you need another event to get us to this?
It would take quite a bit.
Okay, that's what you ended up.
Yeah, to that 1600. We take a significant amount to put that. I'm not saying for a minute I'll take this wrong, but I'm saying head up to blue water, don't worry about it. I'm not saying that. But would that change it and make it over the minute objective? I don't believe that. I don't believe that is on that. So manage the water.
Brent, what is Carus doing with the water that's in that collection pond?
My understanding is that they're bringing a portable treatment thing to the lake.
Oh, they're gonna
treating it there.
Did they pump it off of their pool and dump it in there and treat it?
I don't know if I'm not sure.
I don't think they've finalized what they're doing with it, whether they're trucking it off or in tankers or they're doing a pre-treatment. I believe they are doing a pre-treatment, but
Last I spoke it was, but yeah, Brian's correct, they haven't finalized that.
basically what they
as far as I
would,
understand.
they would come in with a package pre-treatment plant and treat the water, test it, and take this whatever solid or sludge they get off it to a environmental landfill, and then the water would be residential sewer quality and dump it into our sewer. They cannot dump it in until it reaches the pH levels and all the other levels it has to meet, and then they would just truck the sludge off. But most of the water would be equivalent, or all of the water would be equivalent to residential sewage, and it wouldn't affect our plant.
So would we be okay to drain our pools into the sewer?
Up there, you had a sewer separation, and it's a storm sewer. I don't know that answer.
I'd be asking Carus to do every one of those. If you don't ask, they're not going to do it. I mean, they're not going to come to your house and say, let's do this for you. I just don't see that happening. If you bring it up, now it's on record. I mean, their insurance company might say, hey, look, we're not talking that much. Let's just help these people where they need help. They don't want bad press either. I mean, seriously, even though they're going to get it, regardless, because it happened. But you got to ask. And sometimes, Mr. Hicks, you don't accept no. And I understand that. This is your lives and your homes. And we all own homes here too. And I don't know how else to say it, but man, I feel bad for you. I do. I don't know what I do. I can't put myself in your position. But ask. Please ask.
Appreciate that.
Thank you.
I appreciate everybody for your time. Please, again, if there is insurance forms, Brian has copies in case you haven't got online for insurance forms. Again, please reach out to Brian the next day or two with your email address. We can have that email group that has meeting information. Again, we're going to push back to have the EPA and then Carus do that for you out of respect. They're the ones who should own it. But we will definitely help facilitate that.
We also do have a couple copies here of the report.
That is the first 15 pages. There are some grammatical errors which we will change. Once those are changed, we'll put the whole thing on our website and bring it to the table. So if you want the gist of it, we have one of them.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a safe night.